lost season for the Cleveland Browns. Everybody agrees with that. But going into Pittsburgh on Sunday, winning and sweeping the Steelers would make this season a little bit more palatable. We'll talk about it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, we appreciate you all so much. We need more of you. Invite your friends, whatever. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. You can continue this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Browns, Steelers, as always, you never, ever want to lose to your biggest rivals. Browns travel to Pittsburgh Sunday, 1 o'clock for the second time in this 2024 season. We all remember the thrilling Monday night game, late drive from Jameis Winston and company. Browns win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. A lot of this probably comes down to Jameis Winston. We've seen the best of Jameis Winston. We've seen the worst of Jameis Winston. We've seen games where we've seen both, like on Monday Night Football, where we saw the best and worst of Jameis Winston at the same time. Jameis, if the interceptions can be cleaned up, if that can be tightened up, the Cleveland Browns can play with anybody in the NFL right now. Well, maybe not the Detroit Lions, but that is a huge part, and it's been a huge factor in how this team is done with Jameis as their starting quarterback. The 3-interception game against the Chargers, the 3-interception game against the Denver Broncos. Jameis is in a really good zone right now. He's in a really good place right now, working with a great cast that everybody's just kind of trying to get their opportunity. You have some guys on the Cleveland Browns offense just trying to stake their claim for the first time, the Cedric Tillmans of the world, the Jamari Thrashers of the world. You have Elijah Moore, who's playing much better right now in a contract year. You have Jerry Jeudy finally getting enough opportunities to show the justification for the trade and the contract extension. The trade wasn't much, obviously, but the immediate contract extension after Jerry Jeudy had not even stepped onto a field yet for the Cleveland Browns. Which brings us to this. I know there's been a lot of discussion over the last few days, numerous outlets, numerous shows, on whether or not Jerry Jeudy is a true wide receiver one. My belief here is there's maybe 10 of them in all of the NFL that you would say truly bona fide wide receiver one. So therefore, you don't have a shot at getting one of those guys. Can Jerry Jeudy contribute like a number one at times? Sure. He certainly has over the last 5-6 weeks of the season. He has been a true number one. Touchdown numbers a little bit less than what you get from the Justin Jeffersons and certainly the Jamar Chases of the world. But you were getting a guy who, for all intents and purposes, for what he believed in Denver, and it was always weird in Denver that he was drafted, came in as a first-round pick. They had Courtland Sutton there, and they basically just, spent that at high draft choice on Jerry Jeudy and just basically put him in and thrust him into a wide receiver 2 role. Of course, there were times where he had a couple drops, this, that, and the other thing. But it was never like Courtland Sutton was going to put up, wide receiver 1 numbers, or certainly numbers that Jerry Jeudy has put up over the last 5-6 games like we've seen. You're certainly never going to get a Courtland Sutton effort like you got from Jerry Jeudy Monday night in Denver. So trying to chase something that just aren't many of them. You know what I'm saying? It'd be similar to saying, oh, well, your baseball team needs a 50 home run guy. They're just not there. I don't know what you're thinking. And I would rather not chase, even if one was available, say a Jamar Chase, say a Justin Jefferson, because again, you are giving away a boatload of assets. Does it necessarily and truly have to be that you have a wide receiver 1? No. Let me ask you this. Minus Tyreek Hill, the last couple of years for the Kansas City Chiefs, who has been their wide receiver 1? Ain't no answer to it, because there is not an answer to it. It is not automatically something that you need to be a Super Bowl contender. Bengals went 1 year. Yes. Minnesota has not gone. Other teams with these bona fide wide receiver number ones. And a lot of the times these numbers get to be what they are is because teams are not good enough to be up big late in games. So you're getting fed an obscene amount of targets. You take the assets you have and you continue to build that wide receiver room. I will re-sign Elijah Moore because I don't think the contract is going to blow anyone's mind. I still have Cedric Tillman. I still have Jamari Thresh. I would highly consider adding a wide receiver through free agency, and it will be tempting to look at that wide receiver class and where the Browns are going to stand in the top 10 of this draft order and look at a Ted McMillan, to look at a Luther Burden from Missouri. This wide receiver class, I'm not sure it's up to par where it's been the last few years. You get ebbs and flows. Tight end class is going to be good. The running back class is going to be good. Quarterback class is not going to be that great. So you take what the draft class gives you and you try to make do from there. Whether or not Jerry Jeudy is a wide receiver one, I don't know yet. Whether or not he can be a wide receiver one, I don't know yet. But I am asking for him to just continue to be the Jerry Jeudy he has. You guys want to sit here and argue about that stuff, wide receiver one or not? I don't care. Jerry Jeudy is playing great football right now. He's also not being paid like a number one wide receiver. So you're right now, the Jerry Jeudy that we currently have, he is doing everything and then some and justifying that Andrew Berry had a little blind faith in Jerry Jeudy, this franchise did, and they are getting rewarded for it to this point. Now, with Jameis, Browns did a fantastic job, Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But, in controlling the pass rush, great job on TJ Watt. But what has always made TJ Watt so great, and this isn't a knock on TJ Watt. You know me, I'm not somebody that sit here and does these Garrett and Watt comparisons. They're a waste of stinking time. But when Alex Highsmith is on the field for the Pittsburgh Steelers, you get the best of both worlds. Alex Highsmith is a great player. He's an extremely underrated player. Alex Highsmith, more times than not, is the one that is battling the left tackle. You cannot attribute the attention that you need to sometimes on TJ Watt when Alex Highsmith is on the field. This changes the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And with Jameis, look, love the guy, love the arm, love the ability, the mobility, and the athletic ability are something that are not necessarily there with Jameis. So if this offensive line does not come correct Sunday in Pittsburgh, Alex Highsmith, TJ Watt could make for a very, very long day. We have seen it many, many times. One of the bigger names in this game is going to be Alex Highsmith. TJ Watt will get his just desserts all the time. But Alex Highsmith returning for the Pittsburgh Steelers is certainly something that's going to cause a lot of concern for the Cleveland Browns. We're going to flip it up. We're going to talk about the defense versus the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Your Locked On Browns pregame show continues. I appreciate you all for being along for the ride. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite. And right now, you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, score an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtful curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with the promo code NFL. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. My nephew recently had his first child. This is my mother's first great grandchild. We're all happy for him. We're all excited for him, but it's just a tough sell because my nephew lives in Nevada. So getting to see my great nephew is just something that's not really in the cards right now, but we have found a great way to check it out and learn how to get this experience better with us and with him. The setup takes 60 seconds. You can invite friends and family to easily share photos via the Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription is required. It only takes a tap on your phone to send new photos to frame across the country. It's the fastest, easiest way to keep loved ones in the loop. They'll feel so much more connected to you. My mother just gets a little ding. She goes over, checks it. The new photos come through. She gets to see her great grandson. Swipe through photos, tap to see new photo sent. Tap the heart button to say thank you for the sender. The original 10-inch or larger 15-inch gallery frame, they look perfect in any room and they can stand on their own, or you can easily mount them to your wall. Makes it a very meaningful and personalized gift. You can preload it with memories without opening the box. Surprise them with old sentimental photos as soon as it's plugged in. One of the first photos he sent was him with his grandmother for the first time, and then him with his newborn son. Over 1 million happy customers, thousands of 5-star reviews, and available in over 30 countries. Recommended by the Today Show, Forbes, New York Mag, and more. And now it's a special limited time offer for our listeners. Get $20 off your purchase of Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NFL. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NFL. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NFL. Get $20 off a Skylight Frame at skylightframe.com/NFL. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you guys are awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. And the show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, what we saw in the Thursday night game against the Cleveland Browns, and this is one of the biggest concern from that Thursday night game when the Browns did, in fact, beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. The thing is the Browns defense was giving up some chunk plays. 49-yard reception, 23-yard reception, 31-yard reception, 35-yard reception, 30-yard run from Justin Fields. These are things the Browns are not going to be able to handle in a game the second time around. We know Pittsburgh is coming for revenge, so to speak. They were not happy with the way the first one turned out. Pittsburgh's season, and they are getting aided and benefited by the Baltimore Ravens having their issues. But the Pittsburgh Steelers would like to wrap up this AFC North as soon as possible. Now, for the Browns, this is something you are going to have to be much more cognizant of the second time around when playing this team. Now, the Browns secondary has certainly had their issues. You go to the big touchdown, the long one, 93 yards to Marvin Mims against the Denver Broncos. The big plays, and this is probably something that probably happened due to lack of pass rush. Even in that game on that Thursday night, when I am talking about these large chunk plays, you still had Myles Garrett with 3 sacks in this game. It has really kind of just been the Myles Garrett show as far as the pass rush is concerned. Last year was a lot different, but this year it's kind of gone back to normal, where it's really just Myles Garrett being the sole component of the pass rush. It's just not sustainable. Other guys need to step up. The Okoronkos of the world, certainly the Elijah McGuires of the world. We'll see the way it works at the 4th and 5th spots of the pass rusher opportunities. Cam Thomas played last week. Is Houston going to get an opportunity this week? We're not really sure what's going on with the defensive tackle room. The Cleveland Browns did add 2 defensive tackles to the practice squad today, which maybe tells me that maybe Mike Hall is not going to return this year. So I'm not sure how this is working out, but it did seem strange when you added 2 pass rushers last week and now you added 2 defensive tackles late in the week this week. The Steelers, their running game, the Browns handled fairly well, really well. And it's weird how snow games can work. Either you can get the penetration or you can't. Now, if you go back to the Sunday night game, which was the Bills and the 49ers, there was no penetration from everybody, but running backs were pretty much running at will in that game. Against the Steelers in that Thursday night game, Browns Steelers, nobody really ran the ball. This has been a consistent issue with the Cleveland Browns the entire season. This is a team that had been so run, I don't want to say run dependent, because it wasn't dependent. If it's working, you don't go away from it. So, but now they are almost run independent, where they just can't get it. There hasn't been one game where it's just been like it looked during the time here during the Stefanski regime. Yes, the offensive line has been shuffled. Yes, the offensive line is a little bit older than it certainly was in the beginning of this regime of the Cleveland Browns. Nick Chubb is out there. We all understand Nick Chubb is not 100% good enough to play, but maybe not necessarily good enough to be Nick Chubb, if you understand what I'm saying, which is certainly going to lead to some very, very tough conversations in the offseason about what the Browns are going to do with the running back room going further. But if they are able to, and maybe this is a game where you give maybe Jerome Ford a little bit bigger slice of the pie earlier in the game. Maybe, Jerome Ford can help you there. But running game, both sides. The Browns, I will always tell you, we know what Najee Harris is. I've seen him a million times. Jaylen Warren is always the one that gives me the headache, though. He gets a glimpse of space. He is just quicker. He is more elusive. Jaylen Warren is one that scares the death out of you. Pat Freiermuth has certainly been an interesting and solid tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the years. And of course, you have the big fella, from Georgia, who's really starting to gravitate into a role where they do throw him the ball to Darnell Washington, but also serves as a sixth offensive lineman and does an incredible job with that. The guy is an absolute monster of a human being at his size. So you're going to have to, again, it starts with George Pickens. And I think the thing with George Pickens is the first thing you think about when you're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're playing George Pickens is, what is going to be, the absurdity, the stupidity of something that George Pickens does. Everybody saw on Hard Knocks, right away, Mike Tomlin, one play into it, pick six, thought maybe there was a penalty. Look, it didn't get called. Interception went to the house. And right away there's George Pickens basically going off the rails. But Mike Tomlin, the coach that he is, gets George Pickens right, gets down the field, 6-7 minutes later, George Pickens scores a touchdown. George Pickens' response is to punt the ball into the crowd. So he is like the perpetual child in the classroom that just cannot be contained for an entire period. There is going to be something that sets George Pickens off either good or bad. The thing with George Pickens, though, is you have to just try to keep him away from the ball. Because the quieter George Pickens' involvement is, certainly allows for the opportunity for George Pickens to make a grand mistake. He just cannot keep himself composed. Now, Russ has been really smart about this. He's made a solid effort in trying to feed George Pickens and keep him going. But the fact remains that George Pickens, either good, where he can blow up a game for the good for Pittsburgh, or B, blow it up for his own team. That is there with George Pickens. The guy is a freak of nature. He is a great wide receiver, but the trust factor with George Pickens is extremely minimal. Browns need to rush the passer. Big time need to rush the passer. The Browns need to control the vertical game. Russell Wilson, some of the balls that he got away with completing in that Thursday night game, guys just kind of ran into an area and stopped. On a field that's going to be cold, I'm not sure there's going to be that much precipitation. Browns players have to be better in the reactionary skills, and they have to get a couple of turnovers out of Russell Wilson. If they do not, it will make for a long day. And the Browns want this. The Pittsburgh Steelers don't necessarily need this. They still control their own destiny. But for Pittsburgh, they would like to start wrapping this up early. But if you're the Cleveland Browns, you are coming into this with a absolute mentality of, we are not giving anything up for free. We are still here to fight for us. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Stick around, everybody. Hey, Locked On Browns fans. I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list, let's just say, it's far from complete. Well, if that's the case, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of IceShaker. IceShaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and Major League Baseball, and it will make the ideal gift. Created by and used by the Gronkowski brothers, IceShakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles, and this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your order. They just delivered me mine. It is fantastic. It holds a large amount of liquid, can be used with warm, can be used obviously for your cold powdered drinks to go to the gym with. It is a great product. Kitchen grade stainless steel bottles that won't absorb odor like the plastic bottles do. Third-party test results at the bottom. Parented twist and agitator that breaks up powders. but it's silent when you shake it instead of the cling, 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 cling that you hear all over the gym when you get your workout in, right? Third, customizable, send us your logo, or check out custom.shop to customize your favorite bottle. Turnaround time on custom bottles is 3 to 5 business days. The agitator works as a strainer as well and makes it very solid tailgating cup to mix whatever your favorite drink is to have in the Muni lot. Order your team branded bottles today at IceShaker.com and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $25 off your order. IceShakers, show your support for your team with the best branded workout bottles on the market. IceShakers. Get ready to continue to win money with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Your latest Locked On Browns continues closing out here. Browns Steelers pregame show, 1 o'clock Sunday in Pittsburgh. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you for making the show your first listen every single day. If you were not part of the everyday crowd by now, make a new plan, stand and subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. I don't know why, but I think it is the success of the offense right now. And you think if Jameis had a rough week as far as turning the ball over on Monday night, this is probably a week where maybe he's going to control it better. You look at the Steelers' last game, obviously big shootout with the Cincinnati Bengals that Pittsburgh did end up victorious in. The Cleveland Browns with Jameis Winston can play this style of ball game. They have a better defense than Cincinnati Bengals. Hell, they're a team in the NFL that doesn't have a better defense than Cincinnati Bengals. They will not have the Pittsburgh Steelers scoring in the 40s on them. I still think the Cleveland Browns can score in the 30s on the Cleveland Browns, put up 24 in a snowstorm. I think the Cleveland Browns will win this game. You can say it right now. I don't care who hears it, who's looking at it. The Cleveland Browns are going to sweep the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. It's not going to matter much as far as when everything is done and said on this season, but it will give the Browns continued momentum towards hopefully a big bounce back year in 2025. Jameis Winston has breathed life into this team, into this locker room, into the franchise, into the city as well. He's become an extremely likable character, a guy who can admit his own faults and is gracious when it comes to getting credit for things. He has become a guy that people, Cleveland Browns wise, can truly appreciate. I think Myles Garrett is going to have yet another big game. 3 sacks in the Thursday night football game. And yes, he will be the focal point. But I think this is where Jim Schwartz is going to get a little more creative and give Myles Garrett the opportunity to basically pick his spots. You want to go A gap, you go A gap. You want to go B gap, go B gap. Right tackle, left tackle. You take a player who is just this stinking good in Myles Garrett and just let him find his spot. We used to use a phrase, find the turd. Find the matchup that you think you're going to win. You're going to win consistently and just go at it. The defense is secondary is going to have to step it up. There's just no question. There's been issues with this team at this time. But if there is a team to get yourself correct and right against, it is absolutely the Steelers because you know them so well. There is no confusion with this team. Never is confusion. You know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are bringing against you. If you are the Cleveland Browns, you have faced them 5,000 times. You need to be ready to handle the run game. you need to watch now. This team is a lot more vertical than they used to be. That is, obviously Pickens. Calvin Austin, who left the game last week with a concussion, has pretty much practiced all week. Caught a big touchdown, if you all remember, in the Thursday night game. Kind of a utility jack-of-all-type trades player who's really found a way to develop and contribute this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers. A little bit of a pest. Certainly a guy that's got to get the ball in his hands. He's got to get beat up a little bit. I mean, you've got to get physical with a smaller guy like this in the cold weather, and the Browns better be careful because he is quicker than a hiccup. So if you're not getting to him, Calvin Austin can certainly, make for a bad day with all the abilities and attributes that he certainly has. But I'm going to stand on record. I am going to say it. If the Browns run the ball well, if Jameis is going to cut down on the turnovers, which I think, because this kind of seems like it's a Jekyll and Hyde thing. 1 week turnovers, 1 week not so much. So that means you would trend towards a better Jameis Winston week. Jerry Jeudy is still just an absolute beast. Joey Porter Jr. is one of the handsiest son of guns in the league. I'm not sure, though, in the zone Jerry Jeudy is in right now, I'm not sure that Joey Porter is even going to be able to get handsy with Jerry Jeudy the way he is handling his route running at this time. Defensively, again, pressure the quarterback and eliminate the big vertical throws that can be drive changers. But I will again stand on record. The Cleveland Browns are going to walk into Pittsburgh 1 o'clock on Sunday, and they're going to walk out with their third straight victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Pittsburgh, go ahead, celebrate what's most likely going to be an AFC North title. Browns fans, not thrilled, but we'll be happy with the fact that they did show up and showed up hard against their biggest rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, in the same season twice. Browns to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers 33-26. Book it. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate you all for coming out and making Locked On Browns your first listen. If you're here for the first time, stick around. The everyday crowd, you're a bunch of filthy animals, but you're my filthy animals. I suggest everybody become a filthy animal and an everyday or subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.